media, the sports media, refuses to acknowledge and give people the full story. Right now, all they're doing, well, they're shilling for the WNBA, and that shouldn't shock us. I mean, the sports media is woke, and they've been in the bag for the WNBA for years now, like it is. Well, they're doing it with the ratings. Oh my God, the ratings are so brave, stunning, and courageously large, except the ratings are literally different than they were any other year.
The WNBA media machine is back at it again, right? They're throwing out these huge headlines about record viewership, but honestly, it all kind of falls apart when you look a little closer. They're saying these finals are the most watched in 20, but here's the thing, they're only saying that if you ignore how they're actually counting. So what's really going on? Did the league actually break records? Or did the media just totally change the rules to make it look good? Are these numbers even real? Or are they just trying to hide how much they miss Caitlin Clark? Let's dive in and see.
Different than they were any other year. But yet, the sports media, like Front Office Sports, will run a headline like this, completely misleading people.
Look, if you've scrolled through ESPN or any sports news this week, you've definitely seen the same headline popping up everywhere. WNBA Finals. Most viewed in 25 years. Sounds pretty amazing, right? But what's crazy is that's not even close to the whole picture. The thing is, the media isn't technically lying to you, but they're definitely not giving you the full truth either. They're doing this thing called creative accounting. And honestly, that's just a fancy way of saying they're totally cooking the numbers.
WNBA Finals most viewed in 25 years, despite possible Aces sweep. Oh, this was before the game ended, but this came out late yesterday afternoon.
So, let's break down what's actually happening here. These WNBA Finals, with the Aces and the Mercury, are getting hyped up like some kind of ratings miracle. They're saying viewership jumped 13% from last year, and it's the most watched final since way back in But there's this one super important detail missing from all those big headlines. The entire way they measure these ratings totally changed this season. Yeah, seriously. They're counting things differently now. Nielsen, the company that tracks all the TV numbers, just added big data and smart device tracking. That means they're counting people watching from smart TVs, cable boxes, even TVs in bars, gyms, basically anywhere a screen is on, even if no one's actually looking at it.
Goodness, the Aces have won all 3 games of the series, which are drawing 13% more viewers than last year. No shit, because you're literally including a shit ton of new TVs in this whole situation. It is unbelievable. They'll run this headline and then in fine print somewhere tell the whole story. The WNBA Finals continue to post strong viewership through 3 games. Well, honestly, compared to Indiana Fever regular season games, especially the ones Caitlin Clark plays in, but hell, the ones she don't. Ratings don't look that damn big to me still. They still don't look.
So, that huge 1.9 million average viewer number you see everywhere, you might want to mentally subtract a few 100,000 of those ghost viewers before you start celebrating. Because if they'd used this exact same counting method last year, those 2024 finals would have probably broken records too. It's not like the WNBA suddenly got super popular overnight. Nope. Nielsen just started counting every single plugged-in device as if it had eyeballs glued to the screen. Basically, congrats to the league. They finally figured out how to count all those empty hotel TVs. And naturally, the sports media totally jumped on board. Front Office Sports even ran a headline saying, WNBA Finals, highest viewership in 25 years, despite possible sweep.
But you're not giving people the full story in these headlines. Yeah, oh my God, that catches attention, and everybody can, ESPN can take a victory lap. All these media outlets saying, look, see, everybody's interested in the WNBA. Nah, You're just using different metrics, which is changing what the viewership totals are.
Now, that headline sounds amazing, right? Until you realize the real truth is buried like halfway down the article in the 5th paragraph, by the way. It basically says, audience metrics are getting a bump from Nielsen, which changed its tracking methods in 2025 to include set-top boxes and smart TVs. What does that even mean? Translation, we're counting things totally differently now, but we're gonna pretend it's the same so we can all tweet about these record-breaking ratings.
We got the official viewership numbers for Game 1 of the finals, and this is from ESPN. 1.9 million viewers, which is up 62%, with its peak at 2.5 million. And this is the most watched Game 1 of the WNBA finals in 28 years. I was actually pleasantly surprised by this data because I felt like the buzz around the WNBA finals has actually been pretty low this season. I thought the buzz around the Lynx Liberty finals last year had more buzz. Like, I was seeing a lot more people talk about that. Now, I have been seeing a ton of people talk about the game last night because obviously Asia's game winner was just legendary, and we are going to see that clip. We are going to see that photo for many, many of years. But up until last night, I felt like the buzz was really low on the finals. There were so many people who just weren't talking about it. They were talking about baseball, or they were talking about the NBA preseason or whatever, but it really wasn't focused on the finals. So when you see numbers like that, obviously those are great numbers, the best in 28 years. Another reason I was surprised by the numbers is because both games that were in Las Vegas actually weren't sold out, Game 1 and Game 2. And we also saw the ticket prices for those games. They were down to like $35. And then I believe the game last night was also down to like $10 per ticket. So it seemed like the demand for these WNBA finals had gone down a little bit, and both of the games in Vegas were not sold out. But I guess the TV numbers are still translating, so that's obviously a really good sign for the WNBA.
And that, folks, is what passes for journalism in 2025. It's all part of this protect the brand playbook, right? The WNBA has spent the whole season trying to prove they don't need Caitlin Clark to survive, and they're desperate for any headline that backs them up. But here's what they conveniently forget. Caitlin Clark's regular season games easily outdrew these finals. She averaged over 1.5 million viewers per game, some even hitting 2 million. And that was without this fancy new counting method. So let's just do some quick math. The WNBA finals, with their inflated system, averaged 1.9 million. Caitlin's regular season games, using the old system, averaged 1.5 million. You don't need to be a math whiz to see the truth there. If they'd used last year's tracking, these finals wouldn't even come close to her regular season numbers. But of course, they'll never say that out loud. The WNBA is in total image control mode right now. They lost their biggest draw for the postseason, and without Caitlin, they knew the finals wouldn't look great. So what's the move when your star isn't around? You change how you count. It's a simple trick. Redefine success, add a few extra screens, send out some press releases, and boom, record-breaking viewership. It's like a restaurant saying they had their best sales month ever because they started counting free water as an entree. It's truly ridiculous. Plus, let's dig even deeper into the fine print because it actually gets funnier. Those 2025 finals averaged 1.9 million viewers across 3 games. But that included 2 ESPN broadcasts and 1 ABC slot. Remember, ABC is free to air, so it automatically reaches a much bigger audience. That's like comparing a Netflix show to a Super Bowl commercial and then acting shocked one had more viewers. Yet, the media just ran with it. They loved this story, not because it was true, but because it felt good. It allowed them to say, women's sports are thriving, even without Caitlin Clark. It pushes this idea that the WNBA is growing organically, even though all the real data screams otherwise. Because honestly, without Clark, the WNBA's buzz just tanked. Ticket sales fell, merch cooled off, search interest nosedived after the fever season ended. The sports media refuses to talk about that. Instead, they just cherry-pick numbers and scream record-breaking until people stop asking questions. And the worst part is, most fans don't even realize how utterly cooked these numbers are. Nielsen's new system, the Big Data Plus panel method, literally only started this year. It's not a small tweak, it's a complete overhaul of how audiences are measured. Before 2025, Nielsen used a panel-only system, meaning ratings were based on a small, controlled sample of households. Now they've added millions of new devices into the mix. Everything from Roku boxes, to smart TVs, to YouTube multicast. So if you're in a hotel lobby with ESPN on mute while scrolling your phone, congrats, you're now an active viewer. That's how these records were made. It's fake growth, built on fake numbers, sold by fake headlines. And the funniest part, even with these inflated counts, the finals still barely edged out Caitlin Clark's real ratings from just a few months ago. That's the part the woke sports media absolutely refuses to admit. Because acknowledging that Caitlin Clark drives the entire WNBA economy would mean admitting the league's biggest star isn't the commissioner, or A'ja Wilson, or even the Aces dynasty. It's one player from Indiana who single-handedly made the league relevant again. And for the media activists who spent all season calling Clark overhyped, that truth really stings. That's why they keep spinning stories about collective growth. They can't stand that one person, one player, can outperform their entire playoff system. But the reality is super simple. Caitlin Clark made people care. The finals didn't. Without her, the league just feels flat. The games look smaller, the storylines vanish. You can pump up the stats all you want, but it doesn't change the vibe, and fans know. When Clark plays, Twitter lights up. When the finals aired, crickets. Even WNBA players couldn't fake enthusiasm online. The engagement was minimal, the memes were dry, the energy was just gone. And you can't measure that with a Nielsen meter. So while the headlines scream, highest ratings in 25 years, the reality is a league quietly realizing it might have already peaked. And it's only October. The fans can smell it, the analysts can see it, even Adam Silver probably knows it. Because let's be honest, the numbers don't lie, but they can definitely be rearranged until they say exactly what you want. What's crazy is, the second fans caught on to this ratings trick, the internet absolutely exploded. People started comparing the numbers side by side. Caitlin Clark's regular season games versus these record-breaking finals. And when you put them next to each other, it looked downright embarrassing. One comment summed it up perfectly. The finals barely beat Caitlin's random Tuesday night game. And they had to count hotel TVs to do it. That's the mood right now. Even longtime WNBA fans are sick of the media trying to gaslight them. They love the league, but they want honesty, not fake win. This isn't about tearing down women's basketball. It's about telling the actual truth. You can't claim the league is thriving when half the growth comes from just changing how you count things. And it's not just fans noticing. Some journalists are finally calling it out. One TV analyst said, "We can't compare these numbers to any past year because this is year one of a completely new system." Translation, all those 25-year highs are totally meaningless. But that didn't stop ESPN and others from spinning it. They plastered those big, bold numbers everywhere, acting like the league finally had its big breakthrough. Meanwhile, Adam Silver and Cathy Engelbert are probably somewhere quietly hoping nobody asks how those numbers actually got so high. Because here's the absolute truth, the WNBA knows exactly what's happening. They know that without Caitlin Clark, the excitement drops. They know that most of the new audience showed up because of her, not after her. And the panic behind the scenes, it's real. Why? Because the off-season is here. No Clark, no fever buzz, no packed arenas. Now they've got to sell sponsors on a record-breaking finals that half the internet already called fake. That's a tough sell. Advertisers aren't dumb. They look at engagement, not just headline. And when the finals pulled half the social buzz of Caitlin's worst-rated regular season game, that tells you everything you need to know. You can fake TV metrics, but you can't fake a real conversation. Caitlin Clark had people who'd never watched basketball suddenly care. She had bars showing fever games in prime time. She made every arena she walked into a sellout. And now the WNBA is trying to act like they don't need that. Yeah, good luck with that. You can't build a brand on "we're fine without her" when your own finals needed a brand new counting method just to look decent. The funniest part of all this, the league genuinely thought fans wouldn't note. They dropped the record viewership headline right before the weekend, hoping everyone would just share it and move on. But fans actually did their homework. They found the footnote about the new Nielsen method. They compared it to last year's system, and they totally exposed the whole thing. The comments online were brutal. Fake growth, media manipulation, counting microwaves now. One tweet even joked, "Congrats to the WNBA for finally getting my dentist waiting room counted as a viewer." It's hilarious because it's true. This wasn't organic success. It was pure PR spin. And now, even some players are starting to side-eye these numbers. Some insiders have hinted that players know the finals didn't really draw massive attention. Attendance was solid, sure, but not historic. The online traffic? Meh, you just can't fake that kind of energy. Because when Caitlin Clark played, everyone felt it. Even her warm-up games had more intensity than some of these finals matchups. That's not disrespect, it's just reality. The WNBA might be growing, but Caitlin Clark is absolutely the engine driving it. She's the reason you even clicked on a WNBA headline this year. She's the reason mainstream networks suddenly care, and the league pretending otherwise just makes them look completely out of touch. Now here's the part that really hurts the media. The truth is finally catching up. Independent reporters are actually fact-checking those glowing headlines now. Some have even published breakdowns, showing how that 25-year high number would actually drop below 1 million if the new tracking was removed. One headline literally read, "Record viewership claim doesn't add up." And when your own fact-checkers start roasting you, that's not a good sign. The WNBA wanted to prove they could stand on their own without Caitlin Clark. Instead, they accidentally proved she's the entire reason they stand at all. And that's exactly why the league's leadership is so nervous. Because next season, if ratings dip again, even with the new counting system, they'll have absolutely nowhere to hide. No new metric to blame, no record headline to distract people. The truth will be right there, plain as day. Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA just loses all its steam. And that's why you're seeing all this desperate spin right now. They're trying to control the story before the story controls them. But the internet doesn't forget. Fans remember who really brought excitement to this league. It wasn't media bias, it wasn't fake stats. It was one player who made everyone care. So next time you see a record-breaking headline, just scroll down to paragraph 5. That's where the real story always hides. So there you have it. Fake ratings, real exposure, and a league totally scrambling to hide its biggest secret. They just can't replace Caitlin Clark. Do you think the WNBA will ever actually admit how much they depend on her? Or will they just keep faking growth with these totally cooked numbers? Drop your answer below, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more truth bombs on sports media spin.